Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast Channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.
to the September 11th, 2024 Exeter Water and Sewer Advisory Committee meeting. My name is Bob Kelly. I'm the chair of the committee. With me to my right is Molly Cowan, the select board representative. And to my left is Carl Wickstrom and Alan Mangan, members of the committee. Ben Mosher was not able to attend this evening, our fifth member. So we'll get right into abatements. Mr. Couchman, what is your address?
It's 2 Holland Way.
Okay. Okay, so we have the write-up. Would you like to give us a 30-second synopsis from your perspective of what's going on?
Sure. I probably not too much I can add beyond what was in the letter, other than to say that when I first essentially acquired through my business the building in 2011, I don't think I received any correspondence ever from the town regarding the water, because those always went to the property which was occupied by tenants. And so apparently when the school filed for bankruptcy and left without paying the water bill, there was I was obligated as the property owner to pay it, which I didn't realize, but I obviously have no problem with that because that's the way things work. My point was just that I did not receive any correspondence because I hadn't been on the official notifications since 2011. So I hadn't received any correspondence. I'm not sure if anyone went to the building. A lot of things got carted away, unfortunately. But as soon as I received the bill, I made arrangements to pay it, which I did the next day. And I was just hoping that you could waive the penalties that were associated with the late payment.
So even as the landlord, you weren't notified of billings or anything like that?
Yeah, that's correct. So the Anvil International had been there for 10 years, and then Coastal Waters was there for 2 years, and all bills went to them, including the property tax bill. But at some point, when I realized that the property taxes weren't getting paid, the school had sort of misled me about that. So I obviously made arrangements to pay them myself, and in doing so, I updated a mailing address for myself in New York City. So I think when I did in September, when I did finally get a bill in for the arrearage on the water, for the first time, it was directed to an address in New York City that I had never provided the town and had never been asked to provide. So I assume that somehow my address made it through the database from property taxes to the water collections group. And of course, as I said, the day I got it, I made arrangements to pay it.
So why is there a second water turn on, turn off fees? I mean, presumably it's been turned off once, and unless you're looking to get new tenants in there.
Well, it was turned off, and then it was turned off apparently when I got the bill. I paid it, and then I asked them to turn it back on because I have fire sprinklers, obviously, and I need water to the property. So I don't mind paying to have water at the property, but so there was a turn off and a turn on charge.
Oh.
Got it. Yeah, that explains it.
Yeah.
Any comments, questions?
Well,
Mr. Couchman?
the only comment I can say is this certainly seems to be something that occurred that was outside of his control to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
And I can understand leniency on this case because of that. We often have leniency for things that occur outside of the control of the responsible party. And my initial reaction is that we accede to his request. Oh, just the fees, obviously, not the
Yeah,
water
not
bills.
asking for anything else.
Yeah.
Any other,
No, I think that's reasonable.
Yeah.
yeah.
Glad our departments talk to each other. That's encouraging to hear.
Yes. I would agree. Any further questions? Any other comments? So you're looking for an abatement of $128.78, the penalties, the fees, water turn off, turn on, that sort of thing.
Now,
That's it. Yes, thank you.
you also want to make sure you are aware that this would be your once every 10 years abatement, that you would not be able to have another abatement for 10 years, so.
Fair is fair. I just wasn't aware, but now I'm on notice, and those bills will get paid.
Okay.
And your name is on the correspondence as the contact, presumably?
Now it is. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think, I assume that in the future, when a new tenant comes in, we'll both get a copy of that bill. But I'll make sure it gets paid.
Are you physically in New York City right now, or New York?
Yes, sir. Yes, I am. Yeah.
Okay, seeing no more questions or comments, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we abate the fees that he has requested, the water turn off, and the certified mail fee and the penalty and interest.
Do I hear a second?
Yeah, second.
Which comes to a total
$128.78.
$128.78, yeah.
Great. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's a vote for nothing. You'll get some sort of notification or credit on your next bill for $128.78.
It's very fair. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you for being patient.
Okay. Good night. Thank you.
Right. So is that our only,
That's our only Zoom
Terry here,
thing.
too.
I don't know who Terry is. That might be the, okay.
It might be the IT guy, okay.
So we'll just go in order of the abatement requests that we received. So is anyone here from 8 Twin Pond Circle?
Yes.
Okay, so why don't you step up, just to be at the mic in case you have any questions? Okay. And you are Mr. Nguyen, presumably?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so, again, 30-second synopsis of what happened?
Well, again, I don't know that there's much more that I can add to the narrative, but again, thank you very much for taking the time to take this matter up. Essentially what happened, the house was vacant. My wife and I have a second home, and we left on November 8th. And you can see from the records, there was zero consumption of water from November 8th until the first intermittent sign of a leak occurred on April 7th. And then it appeared to be a continuous leak on April 8th. We returned home on April 17th or 18th, I believe it was. And first thing we did when we came home was to flush the toilets. We did not notice any water leaking at the time, didn't have any reason to think that there was any problem. But then after flushing the toilets, upon our arrival, I did notice that there was a leak in one of the toilets, the valve. And so I immediately took the steps to shut the water supply off, and I replaced the fill valve. That time, went over and got a new fill valve. Checked the supply valve, and that was operating properly. So when we, I couldn't find any other indication of what may have triggered the leak on April 8th, because you can see that there's been zero water consumption for a 5.5-month period. So checked with the water department to see if there may have been any work that was being done in the lines causing a surge and maybe loosening up anything that may have been inside, and there was no indication of that. We have somebody that does check up in the house during our absence. Ask that person if for any reason they may have flushed the toilet, and they said no, because usually when you leave you drain the lines, but I didn't this year. And somebody was supposed to come in and do it in our absence, but didn't do it. But she said, no, I just don't flush it because the lines are always drained. So we put our heads together to try to figure out if there was anything that could have possibly caused this leak to occur. And I cannot find any discernible reason that I can pinpoint that it may have.
Yeah, it could have been someone checking on your house, but it seems sort of bizarre that there was nothing, and then there was this
Then all-
2-week period,
Then all of a sudden, exactly.
and then
So-
it sort of it feathered out
Yeah.
too, which is sort of bizarre.
Right, and when of course, we came back, that's when the consumption went down from, back.
Oh, right.
To the normal.
Yeah, you
100
came back on the
100 and
20th.
some odd gallons per day. In fact, you can even see in the timing of the day that we arrived.
Yeah.
We arrived about 12 o'clock noontime. And you can see that you had basically a half day's worth of typical usage. So we average about 140 gallons per day, but on an annual basis, it's more like 100 gallons a day because of the amount of time that
Sure.
we're there. So that's when it leveled out when we got home, noticed the leak, changed the valve, went to the post office, found the notice from the town that there was some unusual consumption, and that's when we started putting two and two together and asked Ed if he would come over to check for leaks, to see if there was a problem with the meter, and he couldn't see any reason why it could have happened either, so.
Yeah, just one of those unexplained occurrences.
Yeah, exactly.
House gremlins or something.
So you do think it was, you mentioned a toilet, you do think it was from a toilet?
It was definitely from the toilet, because once I replaced the fill valve,
Oh,
we
Yeah.
didn't have.
yeah, there was a repair.
And I typically replace it every couple of years anyway. And shut the water off when we're gone, but of course this year I didn't, so. But we have not had a problem since then.
Well, you were lucky that we had a mild winter.
Lucky that we had a mild winter, and lucky that I wasn't absent another 2 or 3 months.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
But it could have been much worse had we not had a mild winter if you didn't drain your lines, so.
Yeah.
I guess, in the future, just if someone is watching your house, just maybe give them a list of to-dos, including make sure when they leave, if they did use the toilet, to just check it.
I even checked with the person the other day
Yeah.
again. She
I mean, that's,
said,
we're
I
not
think
here
it's
to
one of those
debate
things
their
where
honesty.
I
Right.
don't
It
think she
happened,
did,
and that's fine.
But who knows?
Stuff.
I don't know.
Right. This would appear to fall into our sort of typical 50% abatement on water and sewer, sort of share the burden with the homeowner, unless someone has something significant to add to that. Any other observations or questions? I will, so what we typically do, again, by our policy that's been in place since the 90s, the town is responsible for everything within their system up to the meter, and the ratepayer is responsible for everything from the meter in. The last few years, we've sort of softened that approach. So, accidents do happen, things happen. And so we typically would share the burden of the excess usage. So what they do is calculate, what your average usage would be, which, you might argue would be zero because you weren't there, but, they take it on what your average usage would be. So we would probably go for a 50% abatement of the excess water and excess sewer usage, which would be $68.88 on the water side and $109.15 on the sewer side for, about $178 roughly would be your abatement. So that's, I think, what we could do, and pending any significant comments from the committee, I will move that approach.
I'll second.
Any further comments? All those in favor of a 50% water and sewer abatement over excess average usage for the WINs at 8, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's a vote.
Thank you very much for your
You bet.
time and your
Thank you.
consideration. I appreciate it very
You
much.
bet.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
Okay, 10 Gary Lane? Anyone here from 10 Gary Lane?
Is there somebody on Zoom?
Terry, are you from 10 Gary Lane? I don't know who Terry.
No, I am not. I own 133 Epping Road.
Okay.
Okay. Well, you would be next on the list, and there's no one here for 10 Gary Lane, so we'll leave them till last. So we will listen to you first. Do you have a video, or do you not want to be on video?
I can't seem to get the video working on my computer. I apologize for this.
That's not a problem at all.
But I can see you and I can hear you, so thank you.
Good. Okay, 133 Epping Road. And you are Terry Eustace?
Yes.
Okay, so. Just go over the details here on our end really quickly. So you're a landlord of the building?
Yes.
And the tenant has some particular access issues to the bathrooms, it looks like.
Yes, they have to have access to the bathroom for drug testing. They're a part of the New Hampshire drug court system.
And there are no other alternatives for that use?
There weren't at the time.
Okay. And how, it says you said you had a plumber replace the toilet. I haven't looked through the whole file. Did you submit a receipt for the repair?
Yes, I did. It's from Express P&H.
Yeah.
Do we get this?
Yeah, it's $531.60.
Okay.
What the repairs were.
Thanks.
Okay. Okay,
Okay.
so it looks like this went into 2 billing periods. Did you get a notification from the town in the first billing period, but you just couldn't fix it?
I got the notification, and then when I contacted the plumber, that was as early as he could get over there. And I didn't realize that it went into the next billing cycle.
Okay. I mean, typically, if we're going to do an abatement, it would be just for one billing cycle. And I understand that in this case, maybe it was circumstances beyond your control, but otherwise, unfortunately, some of the trades are a little bit lax these days in responding to homeowners' calls because they're very busy and understaffed, but we would only consider one. And in this case, it would probably be the first quarter because it's the higher amount, so we would work with you in that regard.
Well, I appreciate your consideration of our request, and anything that you can do, I would appreciate.
Any comments by the committee?
Let's see the first.
What was the first bill?
Okay.
Total.
Well, this would appear to fall under the 50%
I agree.
abatement of excess water, even though sort of circumstances beyond their control, but still, we would share in the burden but not take any excess burden. That would be my personal opinion. If people have a different opinion, certainly feel free to weigh in. Does everyone feel comfortable with the 488.24 for water and 773.33 for sewer as an abatement, 50% water and sewer? Or do we have any further questions?
I think that's fair.
That seems fair.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so would someone like to make a motion in that regard?
I'll make a motion that we do a 50% abatement of excess water and a 50% abatement of excess sewer in this case, with 488.24 on the water and 773.33 on the sewer, and I can't do that math in my head anymore. I'm too old.
So that's $1,261.57.
Okay.
So Terry, what we're considering is a 50% abatement on the excess water and sewer over your average usage at that address. We would consider just that first billing period. So 50% abatement on the excess water is $488.24. Excess sewer is $773.33 for a total abatement possibility of $1,261.57.
Nobody seconded my motion.
Oh, I know.
Okay.
I was just explaining to her where we were going,
Okay.
which I guess I should have seconded before discussion. I will second.
Second.
Thank you, Molly. Robert's rules are totally out the window here.
Never. Very diligent.
Does that, that's where we would be. It's been moved and seconded. Any further comments or questions on your part? Terry?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I would just like to thank you all very much for your time and effort and consideration of our request. I just appreciate it very much.
Sure. So all those in favor of approving the total abatement request of $1,261.57 signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. All right, Terry, you'll get a notification from the department either as a credit or a revised bill after our meeting.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Okay, so the folks from Sterling Hill, anyone here?
Yep,
There you are.
we have two of us, in fact.
Could we have your name, please?
David Martin.
Thank you.
I submitted the request on behalf of the Board of Directors. I'm a board member. And with me, I have Don Clark, who is a member of our Water Conservation Committee.
Okay.
So we have a clubhouse on site, and we use the water from it as a source for watering some garden areas that are extended distance from the clubhouse itself. We had a run of maybe 200 feet of hose. And we asked that the hose be turned off when it's not in use, which was not universally done. The hose started leaking, was not evident to the people who were using the hose at the time, and when it was not turned off, it continued to leak, of course. So again, it was something that was evident. I believe that the water department notified the chairman of our Water Conservation Committee, Ed Marceau, that we had a leak. So we inspected the hose and fixed it initially, and it subsequently has been removed from service, and we will not replace it. We are using redesigning our sprinkler system, our underground sprinkler system, to manage that for us. That sprinkler system is run off of a well, not off of city water. This is in the current billing period. I don't believe we actually received the actual bill yet. It's probably due sometime in the next week.
Right. So it's interesting, if you look at the data readout that we have, it shows a peak. I mean, who knows if that's due to the leak or to the usage? And that's, I think, sort of our conundrum here. Then it goes down again for a day, and then it spikes again, it goes up by a factor of 3, which again is probably usage, because it was July, which was
Right.
sort of hot, and then it went down again, and then it went down to almost 0. So, our charge is to figure out what is actual leakage and what is usage, because it is a
Well,
hose.
Right, this is true. And obviously, when it was turned off, there was, as you saw, those valleys where it's turned off, there's no usage and no leakage. And I agree with you, as there were times when the hose was left on, and that was leakage, not usage. But there was times when the hose was on, it was both.
Right.
I totally agree, and I can't tell you what was what.
Well, there's a peak back in June that's about half, a third the size of the peaks in July than the data we're looking
And I
at.
assume that the leak got worse over time.
Well,
It wasn't initially, it wasn't a catastrophic leak, but a slow.
Was it fixed? Well, the thing I'm saying is that
So
was only for like
what
a
was
2-day
leaking? Was
period.
it just a bad connection?
It was actually, they were corroded, right? I think they were, the connections themselves between the hose, we had hoses linked. And
Okay.
they went bad. Initially, we replaced those just to continue to use the hose until we developed a plan to move forward. And like I said, we've eliminated the hose. It's gone completely off site
Okay.
now.
Just
I mean, if I was looking at this and delving into it, because you can see where there's small areas of usage from the end of May all the way through June, and then there's a spike, as Carl mentioned, in the third week of July, and then it goes back down. And then there's a couple of spikes in early July, and then it goes back down again. And again, I would say that the smaller the smaller blips are leakage, and then the big spikes are when people are actually watering the garden area.
And again, we would have.
Because the
to go
leak
back-
wouldn't all of a sudden get woo, it's leaking like crazy, unless
Well,
people were turning off
Right,
the.
so that's why I'm saying, that my point is that some people turned off the hose.
And some people
Not
did not.
everybody did it.
Got it.
Even though it was recommended, if it wasn't turned off, like I think right around, just after the 4th of July, there was a time period when
Yeah.
it looked like nobody turned off the hose.
Right.
That wasn't all usage, that was in all leakage, that was somebody, well, it was leakage because somebody turned the hose off.
So again, we would be sympathetic, I think, can't speak for the committee, but I think we would be sympathetic to leakage, beyond your control effectively, but the actual usage part, that would be on you. If somebody's, using which is
Sure,
probably
yeah.
what those spikes are, and then it goes back down to a leaking scenario. And like you said, some people turn it off, some people don't. Am I sort of missing something here?
it would be hard to calculate what was usage and what was leakage. I understand what you're,
Well, by you and me, but the town or the public works folks they can have a graph here that shows what the consumption is, and so they could,
okay.
sort of pick the lines. And I guess the question is, if this was only a few $100s, I would say that's fine, but, even at 50%, this is gonna be over, about $900. It would seem to be, well, I guess I would leave that up to the committee as to whether we want to just say, do an abatement for that, the whole excess, including their usage, or whether we want to go back and try to delve into the numbers a little bit and try to come up with what the leakage actually is.
Well, the other thing here, I mean, obviously, they don't have a deduct meter, but none of this is going into the sewer.
Well, I understand.
No, that's a solid point. It's all for watering.
But
That's
again,
another
to
thing
the
we
extent
have
they
to
don't have a deduct meter, that's on them.
I understand.
So, again, I have a hard time giving them a 100% abatement on excess sewer of $1,000, which is probably calculated on usage as well as leakage.
Right.
So
Well,
That
it's
would
kind
be-
of hard to know. Well, what are they using
I
as their
think they
base?
can figure it out. They could take those smaller, I think they could take, I think, I mean, if I'm looking at these numbers without knowing the detail, but I would say those really, really low usage, the low graph points are leakage. The hose is turned off, but there's still a little bit of water going through and.
Well, the hose
meter's
is turned off at the end, but is it turned off with
Well, you
that
don't-
hard valve at the beginning? That's
But clearly it's not, because there's little blips of usage going all the way back into April.
Yeah.
So as soon as they put the hose in service, it was leaking.
Right.
And then, it was leaking just a little bit here and there through May. May is usually wet. You don't have to do a lot of supplemental watering into early June. And then, boom, there's a couple of big uses, which are probably usage, not leakage.
so this meter is specific to this line only. There's no other usage going through this meter.
It's to our clubhouse, which is infrequently used, as, the water usage in there would be, there's a kitchen in there, but again, that's rarely used. There's a toilet in there. The toilet might get flushed once in a while.
Yeah. So some of these little blips could be from other usage.
There is that.
Yeah. So the little tiny blips.
So I don't think we know is the short answer.
And you said the water department has the capability of kind of calculating this?
Well, what they have is they give us a data readout.
Sure.
I don't
I've
know.
seen the data readouts,
Yeah.
yeah, but they can
And
actually come
so
up with a usage.
that's how they determine that, all right, here's normal usage and then here's an outlier. And so we get this and we say, okay, clearly those massive spikes, in my mind, are usage, not leakage. But I think what they probably calculated was everything for the quarter that was over your average usage.
Because I think our usage for this it's either 1,000 gallons a month or 1,000 a quarter. It's
Probably a
very
quarter.
limited. It's
Probably a quarter.
It's quite small.
Right. And so my point is we're going to have, I think, a difficult time of determining what is leakage and what is usage. Yes, it's a seldom used clubhouse, but if you have a party there and you're doing dishes or a bunch of people are using the restrooms in the clubhouse, that's standard usage. So how do we separate that out? Because it's all on one meter. We can't separate that out from the leakage in the hose. We don't know.
But I think it would, in all honesty, you're talking about, you're right, somebody washing dishes and going to the bathroom, that's still minimal usage compared to
Well,
what
unless there's
consumption we had
unless
here.
there's 100 people in there, and you're having a
It's
July.
capacity of 50, and there's never 50
Okay, well, if there's
people.
50 people in there,
And not all of them are going to the bathroom.
okay.
Yeah, you can see the spike after the 4th of July.
Yeah, but
July
if you, they're
4th,
also,
5th, 6th, 7th.
yeah, if you look at the 1 year, monthly usage down at the bottom of this
Yeah.
at the bottom of this. You can see that back in September of '23, they had approximately, maybe a little higher usage than they had in August of '24. But July of '24 is what's way out. I mean,
Sure.
if
Yeah,
you wanted
it's
to use,
off
if you
the
wanted
chart.
to use a base
I
that
agree.
was all leakage, I think you could probably use the August of, or September of '23 as your baseline. Rather than what they used. I don't know what they used.
But then what you're doing in the delta of, let's say, for round numbers, 45,000 gallons,
Yeah. So what-
I would argue that some of that 45,000 gallons, if not most of it, is actual usage. They were watering their garden.
What was,
The
did
area
you, were
that's-
the gardens there last year?
Yeah, and the
Okay.
area that's watered it's maybe the size of a couple of these tables put together. I mean, it's a very small, it's at our entry, there's a few plants there, it's a minimal, I mean, it's a very small area. So yes, we're watering it, and even if you water it twice a day, it's still not tens of thousands of gallons.
It just seems
I think it
interesting
was-
that there's these three, well, actually, potentially four spike areas, and then it goes back down to nothing. So
And I think it's because the water was shut off.
some people shut it off, and so at some point, 4 times in a 2-month period, month and a half period, 4 times someone forgot to turn it off.
When I looked at the data, that's what it said to me, was like, okay, from this date to this date, it was just wide open, nobody shut off the spigot, and nobody noticed it was leaking.
Okay.
What are they using as a basis? I can't tell. Somewhere.
All right, any determination by the committee on how they'd like to proceed?
I'm still looking. Sorry. I just can't find what they're
Do you
using.
calculate the excess from over where the graph has the leak flag? Like on the flags on
I
those
think
guys?
they calculated based on the whole
Yeah.
They generally calculate.
the whole quarter.
Yeah.
So as Carl said, they used 5,300 roughly a year ago, and now they use 51,000, and so that's what it's based on. But the good news for the department is that the usage on either side of that is very small.
Oh, nothing.
So, we're probably actually getting the best case scenario for the department, that they used 5,300 gallons a year ago, because beyond that, it was in the hundreds.
Yeah.
So from a calculation standpoint.
No, then the 5,300, a year ago, they were watering.
Right.
Right. And they would have been in March.
And
for instance,
the
right.
hose was probably not leaking.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do we
And I'm
think?
guessing that's what they used. I can't really see the gallons. What's considered excess on the report here? Oh, it says 52,000 gallons of excess usage.
Right.
So, yeah, there you go.
Yep.
That's what they're used.
Yep.
Yeah. And, okay. Trying to get down to the bill. Where's the bill? There it is. Yeah, so they used, essentially used 5,000 as their basis, which I think is probably correct, because they did water last year. It was the same amount.
Yep.
Now, the question is whether or not whether that's worthy of 50% abatement or not. And
Well, I would say that since the usage is mixed, it's the clubhouse, it's
Yeah.
the usage, and that we do not, I would recommend that we do not give them 100% excess sewer
yeah,
abatement,
I
because
agree
we
with
just
that.
don't know. So
I agree with
I
that.
would say,
Yeah, I agree with that.
I'd say that even though most of it is not going to the
Right.
sewer, we don't know
but it's all
what that
coming out.
split is.
It's all coming out of the general use line. It's not.
So I
it's
would
not a separate
say
line.
that if we're going to do anything, it would be that 50% for both.
I agree. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Does that seem to,
I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that we do a 50% abatement on both water and sewer for the amounts.
yep,
$349.20 on the water and $553.09 on the sewer. It's going to come out to be slightly under
962.29, I guess. Maybe I'm wrong.
962?
Am I
No,
wrong?
that's not right.
it'd be 902.
902.
902.29.
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and make that motion.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, the motion is to grant a 50% abatement for excess water and 50% excess, or abatement for excess sewer usage, totaling $902.29 for the period in question. Any further comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? It's a vote. You'll get that 50% abatement on the excess usage during that period.
All right, thank you for your time and consideration.
Sure.
Appreciate it very much. Hope you don't see us back.
I definitely hope we don't see you back. That's right.
Well, I have to just throw that in, as I said, that Don's here from representing the Water Conservation Committee. We've done great wonders in reducing leakage. And,
You guys have done an amazing job.
yeah, this is an embarrassment that we have here. All right, thank you, Don.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And lady.
Okay.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Okay, so you must be from First Street,
Correct. Yep.
John?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, we'll do that next, 16 First Street.
Let's find this one. Aha.
So, let's see. So while we're reading, looks like there's a lot of narrative. So you want to give us a
Yeah,
just a quick,
there's a lot to it. Yeah, so during this time period, I think it's March and April, the usage spikes up significantly, up to like 25,000 gallons. And previously, before that, I think my highest usage might have been around 4,000 or 5,000 gallons.
Okay.
And during that time period, I was working in Waltham, Mass. The company I work for, my girlfriend lives there. And I have a roommate that was staying with me periodically during that time frame. And I was in training for like our sales program for like a month and a half, so I wasn't really at home. And during I want to say April, when my roommate Brian was staying at the house, he was saying there was something going on with the toilet. And when I had returned home, it was still running, and it probably kept running, and I got the valve eventually changed by one of my dad's one of his buddies, and he came out and fixed it. But previously, looking at the amount of usage I used, even in the last 2-3 years, it's nowhere even to that extent of 25,000 gallons.
So effectively, for that period of time, you were an absent landlord
Yeah.
with a tenant.
Exactly.
Just to,
Yeah, and he was only staying there once or twice a week, and I don't think he really had noticed it because he has his own bathroom in his
Sure.
room. So,
So was that, I'm not trying to get straight, was he the only person using the home at the time, or there's another person
Just
besides
him.
Just
Yeah.
him?
Yeah, it was just
Okay.
him. Yeah,
So he was
just,
and he was just in and out?
in and out, exactly.
There was
Yep.
nobody else in the house then?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I was staying with my girlfriend because I was 5 minutes from the office where I worked at.
Yeah.
And then, but yeah, he told me, I want to say around April, maybe there was like something that was going on with the toilet. And then when I had returned home, it was continuously running. So that's why there's definitely a huge spike from that March, April timeframe.
Right. I see that.
But again, since it's been replaced.
Okay. I would say this probably, well, so it indicated you've lost your job recently?
Yeah. Why I ended up leaving there, currently seeking employment right now. It was my father's house. He had since passed in 2020, so when I was a senior in college. So since then, I've been the one staying there, the one paying for everything else. So in current situation, it's going to be tough to pay. I mean, I could pay $2,000, but it's a lot of money. Just
I'm going to make a motion.
Student loan.
I'm going to make a motion. We do an 80% abatement in this case.
Second.
I think that's something very reasonable to do. So usually what we do is if the homeowner is responsible, but they can't hear it or whatever, we do a 50% abatement. In this situation where you weren't there, we're relying on someone else to do it, and your current hardship, we are recommending an 80% instead of 50% abatement over the excess water and sewer. So be around a little over $1,300 of abatement versus about $860.
I really
So
appreciate
a little
that.
bit more, and
That'd be-
we're-
So it would be $1,313.44. I can do that math.
couldn't do the other ones.
Better than me.
You can do that one.
I don't have to carry any two.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there you
right.
go. So what number did you just say?
13, something.
44?
That's what I said.
1344.
Get, that's what I get. Okay, so Carl moved and Molly seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. You'll get a notice of an abatement of $1,313.44.
Thank you so much, guys.
Usage.
Appreciate you guys listening.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you. Yep. Have a great rest of your night.
You too.
Thank you.
Okay, and then the last one is 10 Gary Lane. Too many mice here.
And this is a very, very small amount,
Right.
Oh, yeah, it is.
which is fine, and we're not to ask the water and sewer
Right.
people to call and ask them if they really mean it.
Oh, it's just one day, that's why.
Yeah.
It's just one day.
An alert
You got it
homeowner.
right away. So,
I mean, I can always have the department reach out.
I know, but they said that they don't like to do that because they've already done it and they've said, this is a once in a
Got it.
10-year abatement. Do you want
Yeah.
it?
It is in the policy.
Yes.
You're right.
anyway.
actually, it is more
Okay.
than one day. It just looked like one day. No, it is one day.
Yeah, just
That's
one.
one day.
Go back to
It's
second.
actually a few hours on one day.
Yeah.
That's what, okay. So I thought I was looking at a week and I was looking
No.
at a day. Yeah. Okay.
So I think we can abate some of the excess water and then the sewer if it was just leaking, right?
So in this case, it would generally be 50% water and then 100%
I'll do
sewer,
100% sewer, yeah.
if that is agreeable to everyone.
Yep. So that's
So that's
14.
2519 plus 7985. Carl, what is that?
Well, it is
$105.04.
$505.04.
All right.
I don't have a pen, so I'm doing it in my head.
That's pretty awesome. You can chair the meeting next time.
No, thank you.
Okay, motion for $105.04 abatement for the folks at 10 Gary Lane?
Are you making the motion?
No, I would like to hear a motion.
Why don't you make the motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion for
Okay.
Those numbers. Because I was still writing.
A second?
I second.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay. So those are our abatements.
6 of them.
I'll be brief on the rest of the meeting. You've seen the utilities, the financial reports. One addition down at the bottom that you may have noticed is the select board has used some of the sewer reserve fund to pay for some of the excess siphon costs. It went from a $1.6 million project to a
Yeah.
$7.7 million project. It's been well documented in the papers and everywhere else. We got a number of different funding sources for that, but we still were about $1 million short and took that out of the sewer reserve fund, which is sort of what it's there for. And then we've also, as part of the wastewater treatment plant upgrade, or, sort of the, 5-year look at, different facilities that we'd like to have. One of them is a septage receiving facility, which is a significant source of revenue potential for the town. There aren't many up to state-of-the-art and up to code septage receiving facilities anymore in this part of the state. And so we are allocating about $800,000 toward the construction of that. And the estimate is that within about 3 years, maybe 3.5 years, that would be paid off, and then the rest of it would be profit. So the select board thought with that kind of return on investment that it would be worth doing. So, but despite that, we're still down to a fund balance as of the end of June of a little over $4 million, and then we still have another 6 months to bring in more revenue, and then there'll be that roughly $3.7 million payment at the end of the year for the wastewater debt. So we're still in decent shape, and like I say, within a year or two, we should be able to get that fund back up to where we need it. And the water fund seems to be in pretty good shape. So that's the operations reports. There's no new business. The only other business that I have is we have started work on the groundwater exploration project. We had allocated funds over the last several years to do some initial review of the efficacy of that kind of project, looking at land, locations where we could do this. We do have a site, and we've started finally after going back on some back and forth on some equipment access issues. We have in the last few weeks installed a test pipe, and then we would lower pumps and detail pipes down that hole and do a pump test in the next couple of weeks, and that will determine how much water we can get out of that well. And then the plan would be that we would get that data and over the winter apply to the New Hampshire DES for a permit for a large groundwater withdrawal, and then put together plans and specifications and then put a warrant article for March of '25 that would pay for basically a new facility, for a wellhead in this area, and it would be tied into the existing groundwater plant on Larry Lane well, which is nearby. But the good news is that project has started, and by the time we have our next meeting, we should actually have data in hand on how well that well would perform and what the status of the permitting is. So that is a brief snippet of good news in a year of not so good news regarding the department.
I have a question
Sure.
once we're through the agenda.
We are.
Nothing to do with the agenda.
Okay.
It was a request from a neighbor, homeowner, condo association
Okay.
wanted to know if I could find out what the watering restrictions have been, what the history of it has been over the last 8 years or so. Who would I contact to find out that?
That's a great question. That is probably a DPW question, but it also could be the town manager's office can help get those answers for you.
Okay, either one of those?
Yeah, because, I mean, going on memory,
I think we've had 3.
yeah.
Yeah.
Last 8 years.
I think we have.
What's the interest? Just
He's a very responsible president of a condo association and is wondering why there's variation in the water usage for the irrigation system that we
I
have.
see.
So he just is trying to make the numbers make sense to him.
Okay.
So that's all.
Well, I will tell you and to him that we will probably not be doing any water restrictions going forward unless there are equipment issues, because we've learned, the town system varies from a year old to 50 years old, and there are a number of what they call deadhead lines on small cul-de-sacs and areas of town. And what happens is that water collects at the end of those lines and doesn't get circulated through, which hydraulically is not a good idea. And so what we learned from the last restriction 2 years ago is that we were getting an increase in calls on water quality because we weren't flushing out those ends of pipes. And so one thing they used, even though we didn't have a lot of excess water at a time of drought, they have come to understand that they still need to get that flushing. That is more important. Public health is more important than the volume of water.
So they've decided it's a bad idea to have water restrictions.
Right.
Period.
That is my understanding in talking to the managing engineers of the department over the last 6 months. So
Okay.
as of now, we will probably not be having more. Again, if a major piece of equipment goes out, different story, but short of that, we would probably not be doing future water restrictions based on.
Do you know, I
Drought.
know who the town manager, do you know who at the DPW would be a good contact if I needed to do that? Probably the town manager.
Well, I would hesitate to give the information out on who would actually be developing the data, because they would not like me
Yeah,
after
okay,
this.
okay.
I would go through Steve Cronin, who's the Public Works Director.
All right.
CRONIN. And like Molly said, that, maybe the initial request might,
Just call the town.
go through Russ.
Yeah, I think that's right.
That's probably the best, and then, but if they're gonna do it, make sure that they're comprehensive in the reason for their request. Obviously, as a ratepayer, they're well within their rights to ask for information,
Right.
but
I know, but I think.
some background would be helpful on why they want that information, just so that it gets done quickly.
Right.
And I also think, I think that the request for water restrictions came from DPW.
Yes,
Certainly Jen, when she was there, would come before, it has not happened under the
Steve.
Cronin administration.
correct.
Okay.
Which
And
is-
they would come before the select board.
It came before the select board and we would have to vote on it, and it was based on like what the drought
Yeah. But I would,
levels were.
yeah. To do that, I would have to go back through all the minutes of the last.
Yeah,
8
no,
years.
and I mean, I imagine that there is some chart somewhere at DPW that says
Right.
like, here's the drought scenarios, and,
Right.
under this level, you have to call for water restrictions.
Well, it's basically, I think, the primary criteria is the level of the river.
Right.
If the river is low and it's getting down to the
It's getting
intake,
low again, yeah.
and then if the river is offline, can the groundwater plant, and our groundwater wells that we currently have been less productive than we had hoped in 2015. So that's the criteria, is the level of the river. But that's one of the reasons why we're going after new groundwater sources.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Ben is not here, but rather than bombard everyone with emails in the beginning of December, do people know their schedule enough to know if Wednesday, December 11th is available for our next meeting date?
Oh boy. I have 2 board meetings that day that I'm facilitating, but I will be done blessedly by 5. So I am free.
Okay.
Yeah, it should be good.
December 11th. Yep, it's open for me.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, it'd be better to do this rather than 2 days before the
Should I
meeting, trying to
pencil in
see if someone's
6:30
available.
at the
6:30.
time?
We'll do it at 6:30, yes.
Why did we move to 7? I don't.
Because 2 meetings ago, Carl was
I
traveling.
wasn't sure I was gonna make
And
it.
he didn't know if he was, so we moved it to 7 so that he could make it. And I usually take previous agendas and just flip them over, and that was totally my bad.
Well, that's my bad, too.
No, I mean, we were accommodating you and whatever. So any other comments or questions?
No.
Hearing none, we will adjourn until probably December 11th, and we will get notices out accordingly. And thank you, everyone, for coming this evening. Meeting is adjourned.
Good work, team.
Excellent.
Oh my God.
Excellent.
Thank you
All right.
for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.